Good morning. I say good morning, hello, whenever you're watching this. Today, I'm going to do something I have never ever done, and I'm going to spill some tea on some characters in my book, My Dirty Little Secret. I've not shared much of this book with you. Not many people know about this book, so why not? Let's jump in.
You bring me comfort like nobody can.
Hey guys, welcome back to One Little Box. For those of you that are new, I am Sheila. Many of you know that I tend to share a lot on my YouTube channel here, and I share kind of a little bit of everything. I share my family, well, I share some of my family, what they want to be shared. I share about my family. I share about my marriage. I share about planning. I love planners and anything planner related. I also love beauty products, so I have a lot of unboxings from Birchbox to Ipsy to FabFitFun and all that good stuff, and all those are coming. In fact, I got one yesterday. I'm trying to think of dates. I should be getting a couple more fun little things this week, so we'll do a bunch of unboxings for you in the next week or two. But many of you have not shared my writing journey honestly and openly and as authentically as I'd like. And that is something that I wanted to embrace for the month of June and to be more open with, because I have joined in with the Authortube community, and many of you are from that community itself. And sometimes it's nice just to get to know a person on another level, maybe on a whole different level than you understand, because not everybody that watches my videos are part of Authortube or even have a desire to write a book, but I do. Writing is a passion. I have a writer tag coming up, and I will share on my struggle as a writer maybe by the end of the week. I'm not going to make any promises. I've been under the weather for a few days, so I am just way behind on videos. But My Dirty Little Secret was a book that came out in 2016, 17? 2016. I love this book. I self-published this book. It is, if you really want to know, 200 pages. 200 pages. There's a lot of me poured into these 200 pages. A lot of my heart, my soul, some of my story in each of these characters. So when I wrote this, it was like being pregnant with a story that needed to be told. And not just one. There's several different characters in this book, like I said. So I'm going to start today, and I am going to kind of share a little bit about, checking time here, a little bit about Tiffany. The book starts off talking about Tiffany, and I'm going to read a little a little excerpt out of here, and it kind of will get you to know where this story begins. Tiffany sat up straight in bed in a panic, her long brown hair drenched in sweat. After a couple of minutes, she realized that she had been dreaming, and even though it was well after midnight, she was glad to be awake instead of living in the familiar nightmare that woke her up. It had been a while since she had had a dream that made her fear going to sleep at all. She laid back in bed, began to calm her breathing as best as she could. Tiffany reached over and felt the strong shoulders of her husband Jonathan, and snuggled close into his back, feeling his tight muscles, smelling his deep masculine scent. Right now, she needed to feel the safety of just being near him. When would this end? When would the nightmares stop? Listening to the gentle snore of her husband and trying to match her breathing to his, she eventually drifted back off to sleep. Tiffany could always find peace in the arms of Jonathan, and yet sometimes she felt so distant from him at no fault of his. It was her. And sadly, she didn't know how to fix it. She buried so much of her past that in the truth of it all, she barely remembered much of her childhood. She was living with black holes in her memories, and sometimes she felt as if the black holes were taking over her life. Tiffany wanted nothing more, but wanted more than anything to be free from simply walking through the motions of life, afraid of memories she buried arising and being seen not only by her, but by everyone she knew. There are days when Tiffany felt the darkness of times of her life had gone away, leaving her to feel such joy, contentment in her life. But sadly, they do not last. Even though there are parts of her past that she had forgiven deep within her, there were some that linger, just waiting to be resurrected again. Not for resolution, but for shame, fear, anxiety, and pain. Tiffany, I'm going to skip through here. Tiffany is a preschool teacher. She's married, of course, to Jonathan, and she has children. A lot of the story of Tiffany is wrapped up in this book. And it intertwines with every other character that has a story in here. This book really kind of just got me. I'm still going through Tiffany here. I wanted to introduce her friends. Her friends down the street. Kim. Ryan and Kim had secrets of their own. Kim looked down at the floor, unsure of how to look Tiffany in the face. She wasn't sure how she would share all the details, but she knew she couldn't keep it stifled down inside any longer. She knew that once the secret was out, she was gambling with the fact that she could lose her friend's loyalty and friendship. I'm pretty sure I caught Ryan in the middle of an affair. I decided that instead of seeking a divorce, I would play the submissive, forgiving wife. We have been so withdrawn from each other for so long. With that said, she took a deep breath, tried to regain her composure. Kim knew that would come out of her mouth next would shock Tiffany and perhaps change the way her friend looked at her. "Oh, Kim, I'm so sorry." Tiffany rose and came to sit next to Kim on the love seat in the living room. "I wish you had talked to me about it." "That's not everything." Kim cut off Tiffany pretty quickly, out of fear that she would give up too much sympathy, and fear would keep her from sharing the whole story. He is also in the middle of a sexual harassment lawsuit at work with a secretary of 5 years. I'm not going to tell you how she finds her husband. Aw, man. There was an error I just saw. Oh well, it happens. As Kim, Sarah, and Jared walked into the house, the energy was suffocating. Sarah and Jared didn't seem to notice, but the hair on Kara's arm stood straight up. As Kara took a deep breath, she could feel her siblings staring at her with a quizzical look. There must be some truth to the myth that twins and triplets had a closer bond than a singleton children. They've always been close, even without being close. In fact, Kara felt like an outsider compared to her sister and brother. In her own way, she looked nothing like them. Sarah and Jared had blonde hair and blue eyes, while Kara had curly brown hair and grayish blue eyes. Growing up, Sarah and Jared used to tease Kara about being adopted, and in the last 6 months, she really was beginning to think that maybe she was. Kara had lost about 20 pounds in the last few months, and on her already small frame, she was beginning to feel as frail as she was beginning to look. Even though teachers and coaches at school always pointed it out to her and was constantly asking how she was, her parents didn't even notice. She wasn't sure what was going on with them, but she knew it was big, and they hardly spoke without arguing. At first, she thought they found out that she had been cutting and were arguing about her until one day when she walked in on a conversation that involved affairs and spending. That only triggered her depression even further, because now not only was she feeling guilty for falling apart, she was feeling down about her parents. Maybe it was her fault they were fighting so much. Maybe it was her fault that there was so much tension in their home all the time. Between her not eating a lot, cutting, struggling with her grades, fighting with her siblings, Kara was truly overwhelmed and lonely. She used to could trust Caitlin, but lately she was so busy with her cheerleader friends that she didn't seem to have time for her. And on top of that, she didn't need somebody blabbing her life to a group of loudmouth snobs. In fact, now that Kara had time to think about it, she wasn't sure she could trust Caitlin at all anymore. When Kara tried out for Cheer Squad, she was hoping that it would bring Caitlin and her closer. At least until the verdict came in that Kara didn't make it. Then she overheard a few girls talking about how if she would lose a few pounds and not be so weird, she would be okay, and they could use her. Even though Caitlin wasn't in the conversation, it would have been nice to know your best friend would have stood up for you. There's a few other minimal characters through here. But I'm not going to give out a whole lot more. I just wanted to introduce the main characters for My Dirty Little Secret. There's always a link down below to my Amazon books, or my books that are on Amazon, if you want to check them out. This book was like I said, like birthing a child, and I've birthed 3 of them, 2 at one time. So I know what pregnancy and the birthing process feels like, and it's painful. Sometimes telling a story that needs to be told is painful. Sometimes spilling tea on things is painful. But in the end, when the tea is spilt and cleaned up, when the characters are exposed, you get to move forward. And once I got this book out, I personally moved forward in my life as well. I will let you guys go. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope you liked the little glimpse into my writing that I gave you. Talk to you in the next video. Bye.
'Cause I never lost my faith in you. Every time when I felt you would pull me through. Yes, I never